were immediate.
I mean, it's funny you mentioned This Sky's Over, because I mean that does have the strings on it,
Yeah.
right? That you arranged originally. So.
Yeah, the original arrangements actually good point. Had strings on them. It just they were less. They were more like sampled strings, and no, actually I had a solo violin player and solo cello player play on those songs, and yeah, that's true. I forgot about that on Elected Dead.
Antonio Pontarelli.
That's right. Yeah, and Cameron Stone played cello on Elected Dead, the record. Yeah.
I mean, you said you were a little bit nervous. I mean, was it kind of, before that first note came out for that show, was it? I mean,
I was.
You've been in front of big audiences, but I mean.
Yeah, it wasn't the audience. No, once I was on stage, I was totally fine. It was the moment before where I'm like, okay, I've never done this before, and then you realize, okay, I guess I'm about to do it, kind of thing, and the audience was very receptive, thankfully, and the orchestra was having a good time. The musicians loved doing something different, so they were totally rocking it. And I realized that one of the guys in the brass section was throwing out metal signs at the audience. I'm like, this is gonna go great. There's no problem here. Yeah, this is gonna be fine. And so it was cool. Yeah.
I mean, you as a singer, Serge. I mean, did you have to bring a different dynamic? I mean, is it a different personality? Is it a different voice singing against a 70-piece orchestra as opposed to your,
Good question.
Band or whatever it is?
Not so much, but I had to be more clear and more kind of robust in my performance, because with rock instruments, there's always many frequencies kind of jamming in the same area as the vocals, especially the high mids and highs, the guitar specifically. But with the orchestra, even though the violins and whatnot take a huge amount of space, they're like, it's encompassing. It's like all around you if you were looking at it visually, but your voice is still a solo instrument, so it's very clear. So I kind of gave it my all, and I tried to sing really in a very strong, confident, and open way without, I don't know. Yeah, different. It was different in that sense. I would say I'm actually listening back. I would say that the performance was really good vocally. If I was just to take it vocally, it was a good for a live, performance. I thought it was pretty good.
Because you talk about the range that electric instruments would tend to take with the voice. I mean, here, really, any pitch in your voice. I mean, it's like I think you would hear that instantly against that kind of a background, because these instruments obviously they're playing so perfectly into electric guitars.
Exactly.
You got things kind of flying and distortion and.
Yeah, no, you would exactly, because there's a lot you can hide within a band in terms of a vocalist, but you can't do that. You're kind of pretty naked with an orchestra.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, Serge, did you have any sense that did you want an arrangement that touched more on sort of modern classical? I mean, were you more of an old school guy? I mean, were you from the the Bach, Beethoven, Prokofiev thing, or do you want more of a, modern texture to it?
I never thought of how I want to do it. I didn't think of classical versus modern, traditional versus non-traditional. I just did whatever that came, intuitively, musically to my ear. I think that's the advantage of not being a studied, because I've never studied composition and I've never, done that. I think I have this more immediate intuitive approach to things. There's a drawback to that too, obviously. Not, the downfall is at certain points it would help to be able to read, especially when you're recording an orchestra. Like I was in the studio with an orchestra 2 weeks ago, and everyone was talking bar numbers, and I was still saying middle eight. They're like, what's the middle eight? And I'm like, I need a bar number translator to song format. I need someone next to me going, middle eight is 76 to 82. Chorus 2 is. So I had a friend of mine do that, and that really helped, because I kept on going middle eight, and everyone's like, middle eight. I've got 40 musicians waiting to find out where middle eight is. It was more like Middle Earth, trying to find Middle Earth, So yeah, it would help. It would help down the line, I think. Yeah, definitely.
So I mean, would you actually try to pursue some of that? I mean, maybe get some more chops together on that level?
I'm open to it, yeah. Doing it, not just with the APO DVD, but with what I'm doing now, and the, I'm definitely, I want to make time and learn more. Yeah, I have friends that have been recently learning, other musicians that come from the rock world, and, it's kind of helped what they're doing, so that makes sense.
I mean, do you talk to any of the system guys? I mean, have they?
Yeah, we communicate. We communicate.
Have they heard heard this?
I don't know if they've heard this. I want to think, because it's not, we haven't even made, we're just making the rough copies for press right now, so I didn't even, my parents don't even have this yet. No, I just sent it to them last week, actually. So I don't think they've heard it, but unless they saw some of the clips online.
And just while we're there, I mean, could we just touch on what might be the future of the band?
Well, we always have offers to do stuff, and I'm thankful for them. There's always people interested in us working and doing things together. And when the right time and place comes for that, it'll be obvious. Until then, we haven't really made any decisions as of now as to what to do. Nothing's really changed in that sense.
I mean, was there the sense up there that there was kind of no room for error? I mean, it was a one-off performance, and
right. Yeah.
I mean, how does that work? I mean, bringing the passion to it and yet thinking, I can't screw up, I can't screw up. I mean,
right.
It must have been a difficult thing to do. Obviously, you pulled it off, but I mean,
yeah,
there was no room for error, was there?
Well, not really. I mean, and we're lucky that it turned out the way that it did, because it could have been horrible, I guess, if it was otherwise. But when you plan on something like this, I mean, we could have planned on doing more than one show and recording it so that we can cut it together and all of that. But in the end, that doesn't guarantee anything either, to be honest. The vibe's either there or not. And if it's not there, then you don't release it. If it's there, then you release it. Either way, the show is a live show. You're going to go through it, And luckily for us, it did work out in the end.
Exactly right.
A couple more minutes, guys.
I mean, is there a point where the classical interpretation of your music could have been too much, too flowery, too Muzak sounding? I mean,
No, it's definitely not Muzak sounding.
I mean, it wasn't, but I mean, did you ever have any of those thoughts that...
No, that's just an insecurity. Like, when I'm working on stuff, I don't think of how something could be wrong. I just think of what I'm supposed to do, and I do my best to make it great. If it's not great, I don't release it, whether it's a song on a record or a live performance or anything. If I personally don't put my seal of approval on it, that means I'm not totally secure about it. That means I won't release it.
Gotcha.
It's that simple.
Just a couple words on the next record you're working on?
Sure. It's an electro-orchestral jazz rock record. It's a new sound that I've kind of tinkered with and created. One I've never heard in the same way, at least. And it's a really big sound, a bigger sound than I've ever heard. It's kind of like putting Elected Dead, the record, and the orchestral record, and meshing them together and bringing in a DJ. It's kind of like that. It's really big sounding. But, I mean, that sounds like a clusterfuck right now, the way I said it. But so that's the whole trick. The challenge is to find the perfect bridge to be able to make it a cohesive sounding piece that works together successfully, and I think I've accomplished that. So it's a really interesting new sound. I'm thinking of calling it Music Without Borders because of, the kind of like the thing that it is, and also as a tip-off to Doctors Without Borders, that is a great nonprofit organization.
Great. And last question, you have your own signature Taylor?
Yes, I do.
Acoustic.
T5. Yep.
That must feel pretty cool.
It is. I love that company. I mean, the first Taylor I bought years ago from Guitar Center in Hollywood. I want to say the 410 or the 310. It's still my favorite acoustic guitar to record with. And the T5s I started using on tour because the regular acoustic Taylors, the whole feedback, all that stuff, and the electronics were good, but I wanted something that was even better in terms of the sound electronically, so that I wouldn't have to worry about miking. And so that's when the T5s came in, and then over time we developed a T5 that I really liked, that was crisp and that had no feedback and had I do a lot of plucking with my playing, on the acoustic stuff, so it had to be like really clean in terms of plucking. And when you're playing in a big setting, be it arena or giant theater or stuff, having a guitar that's acoustic electric like that successfully is very important, especially when you're playing with a band or a big outfit. You want that control. You want your mixer to have that control on your instrument. Otherwise, it's just you've played acoustic guitar on stage. I'm sure it's just it could be really noisy. Yeah.
That's great.
Awesome.
Terrific.
Thanks,
Thank you
Steven.
so much.
Thank you, bro. Great interview.
Thank you. Man, that flew by.
Yeah.
You're so cool, man. You're so
Thank you.
great.